Good morning, everyone. This is Monica Saza from Rome. For those of you that don't know me, I'm going to be discussing chapters 7 and 8 that discuss what things regulate cyberspace and the limits of open code. The author here makes a strong point regarding the responsibility that we as users and citizens have in creating these regulations in order to protect certain behaviors that can be harmful to our civil liberties and in order to protect these same things. So what things do regulate? He begins chapter 7 with an explanation of libertarian theory from John Stuart Mill. John Stuart Mill believed that the government threatened liberties and that the private action didn't. So then he poses an important question, which is what actually is a threat to liberty and how can we resist it? This is a question we should think about in general when we try to understand about the regulations of code and how it's being created, especially because this is a new realm that we still need to explore and understand, and because we still need to understand the consequences of what these rules and regulations will have on us and what impact they will have on our civil liberties, values, and norms. He gives examples of how in the 19th century in Britain, the government started creating some norms that prevented free speech, and he saw this as a threat to liberty. Transporting us to modern times, where we are now, the author argues that cyberspace is our new threat to liberty, and because of this new threat, quote unquote, we need to be able to regulate it and to create norms that are going to be beneficial to everyone, to the users of the space, and that are also going to respect our liberties at the same manner, being transparent and open so that we can understand them. So then he breaks down his explanation into four constraints that can regulate society and that can also regulate cyberspace. He wants to translate the same concepts into cyberspace. So in real life, he says that the law, legal constraints regulate us, markets regulate us, technology or the architecture regulate us, and social norm regulate us. And he explains how each of these constraints have their own purpose, and they're all out there for their own interest. And there's a different cost to approaching a regulation using each of these different constraints. So we need to be very careful how a regulator uses these constraints to create laws and rules and things like that, because sometimes they can be out for their own interest, and this interest can be conflicting with our values and norms in our society. When he translates this concept to cyberspace, as we start creating these new regulations, we need to pay special attention on how code, which is the manner in which we regulate cyberspace, is created. And he believes that this code, just as laws in a regular society are transparent, code also needs to be transparent, and we need to be educated about it as well. So laws function, according to the author, in two different ways. The law can be applied directly. So this is regulating people with punishment if they don't follow the norm, or they can be applied indirectly, so in which the regulator, let's say government, modifies one of the constraints or a structure without being transparent. And this regulating people in an indirect way, it's a good manner of avoiding responsibility, because this way is less transparent. He here gives an example of how the government wanted to reduce the instances of abortion, and instead of putting out a policy that was verbally expressed in their name, they instead started pressuring doctors to tell patients that abortion should not be a method of birth control. So in this way, patients, hearing it from the doctor, believe that this way should be followed, and they didn't know that behind what the doctor was saying was a government trying to impose a policy on them. So he brings up this point to make us aware that in cyberspace, as we're creating regulations for code, the government can be influential in this way as well and hide interest, or the market can hide interest in a closed code that we're not going to be able to understand and easily get access to. So then he starts arguing that he believes that open code should be what we follow, because open code supports transparency and it supports openness, and we as users will have more access to this kind of information.